All right, episode 13 of season 2, Irresistible. Just like you.
Just like you.
Yeah. All right. So this is actually probably my favorite episode of the show so far.
Oh, really?
Up until this point.
Okay.
I really enjoyed this. I thought this was great.
Yeah.
I thought this was like Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
You know, because Scully is fashioned after Clarice.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're FBI agents that are investigating, you know, these crimes and everything, I was really hoping for some kind of Hannibal Lecter, Buffalo Bill type of thing. And this is more in the vein of like a Buffalo Bill as to where Beyond the Sea with Brad Dourif is more of the Hannibal Lecter type of episode, and his performance in that is phenomenal.
Oh, so good.
He's just such a great actor.
Yeah, he really is.
But the actor here is very memorable as well, much like Ted Levine in Silence of the Lambs. He kind of always gets pushed to the wayside because of Anthony Hopkins and how memorable he is. I just feel like not enough people talk about Buffalo Bill. I think he's just as iconic any day of the week as Hannibal is in that movie. And I think the same is true here with this episode as compared to like Brad Dourif. This guy is a fucking creep.
He is.
An absolute creep. He plays it so well.
Yeah.
And I really, really like it. Now, I'm not 100% positive because if you take the demon imagery out, just the very quick glances that we get for maybe a cumulatively 10 seconds altogether, this is a completely straightforward FBI investigation. It's almost like it was thrown in there just to justify it being an X-Files episode.
Right.
Because it all kind of doesn't amount to anything. And then, of course, the shape-shifting thing that he does in front of Scully.
Yeah.
Which this is where we'll talk about that. But I am super confused. I think he's a shapeshifter, but he only, if it wasn't for the opening scene with the mortuary, dude, if it wasn't for him seeing him as like a devil for a second, which gave it the opening that made it feel like the X-Files. If it didn't show him as a demon, then it couldn't have went into the you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like they had to put it in there.
Like,
it feels like a script they retrofitted to be an X-Files episode. That's the way it feels.
Yeah. I totally know what you're saying. I like all of it in there, and I sort of feel like I know why it's happening, I guess, but I totally know what you mean, though.
Is he a shapeshifter? Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, I think that...
And he presents... Why would he show himself as a devil to that guy?
I think that people are seeing, like, his true self. Like, I guess I don't actually know if he knows that's what he is. Like, if he can, like, willfully shapeshift and stuff, but I feel like he's evil. And I feel like
he's definitely
that guy,
evil.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, supernaturally
Truly
evil,
yeah.
I should say. Because I think that guy sees, like, what he really looks like for a moment. And then I think Scully, I told you after we watched it, I think ever since she had her near-death experience, I think that she's now a little bit more sensitive to things. And, like, psychically sensitive. And I think that she can see his true form as well. So I think he is, like, a devil.
Had he... When Scully was seeing him shapeshift in front of her, had it been victims that we had saw him kill, like the hooker and whatnot, and the little kid in the casket in the opening, had we seen that, then it would have been like he's stealing their hair and their essence and able to shift into them. So, but I'm assuming that because... It didn't make much sense to me because of the hair thing. One of the people who he shows to become is bald.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that's not
he couldn't have taken
think,
his hair unless he took his pubic hair or his facial hair or something. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I definitely don't think that's it. When they have the one prostitute who's like trying to identify the people, like because she's like a witness or whatever, and she's like, it's none of them. Like he just looked like a guy or whatever. So that's where I think the shape-shifting plays in, where, like, when he's attacking people, they can't really get a read on what he looks like, but there hasn't really been any survivors of his attack, so nobody's been able to be, like, unable to identify him. You know?
I feel like if there was a guy going around and desecrating graves and defiling bodies in a graveyard, especially, like, more fresh graves, I feel like they would talk to the, like, mortuary where, you know, the funeral home, funeral director is what I was trying to think of earlier. I feel like they would have talked to people in that area, or if there was crimes going on with bodies being defiled, I feel like that guy would have stepped forward and been like, bro, I had a guy who was cutting the hair up on people and defiling, and I feel like he would have been a witness that they would have been talking to. Like, the fact that he's never questioned feels like a break in logic for me a little bit, just because he witnesses him cutting up the hair of a dead little kid, and then there's bodies around town that are being defiled and their hair's being cut off.
Yeah.
I feel like that probably would make the papers. And I feel like that guy would have been like, I know who did it.
Yeah.
Right? Or at least they would have went to the people like, okay, where did this body come from? Okay, can we talk to the funeral home that put this body in the ground to see if, like, there's any disgruntled, like, relatives or like people that had a vendetta for them or whatever. I feel like you track the body back to where it came from. And if it came from that funeral home, that guy would be like, oh, I know exactly who did this shit.
Yeah, I think you're probably right that there is some logic breaking with that, but I mean, I do really like this episode too. I think that it has a really great, like, atmosphere and vibe to it. Like, not only does the villain's performance, like, really make it work, but just in general, I think there's this kind of, like, somber creepiness, and I really like Scully in this episode too. Like, it's kind of rare, at least up until this point, that we get episodes where she's more of the believer, because Mulder is very skeptical about this and is kind of
always what happens.
It is. It's always
one of them's the believer,
Mulder,
or the other one
and then
isn't.
sometimes it's Scully. Yeah, they definitely always cross paths.
Which is exactly what happened to Beyond the Sea. She was the believer and he wasn't.
Yeah, but I like the episodes because it definitely, I think, you know, it's one of those situations where it's like, when you have somebody who's more of the skeptic who's then saying, like, I'm experiencing something that's unexplainable, or, like, I believe in something, it makes you more like, oh, this one's really, like, real then, because they're saying it. It's not the guy that's always believing things, which I think is unfair, because Mulder's right, like, all the other times. But that's...
Mulder's, like, always right.
Yeah, exactly. He's always right. But I guess in general, like, in life in general, that's sort of, like, what happens is if a skeptic is, talking about it, people take it a little bit more seriously. But yeah, I think it's really cool that, you know, she has these, like, visions too, like, she's seeing herself as the victim, so she's having, like, some, like, precognitive stuff happening.
Yeah.
And she's just, like, very linked up psychically to this guy for whatever reason.
Her near-death experience.
Her near-death experience, but I like how, like, perturbed she is, and she's having a hard time kind of dealing with it.
That's such a great moment.
So...
When
end?
Yeah, when she finally, like, breaks because she doesn't want...
know.
So she goes and sees a therapist, and the therapist is, like, trying to ask her, and then we have this wonderful moment where she's like... Because you just want Scully and Mulder to be together. Like, that's, like, the main focus of the show for me, is always, like, just be together already.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
I know.
You know, like, when her sister asks her about her partner, she's like, Mulder? Nah, he's too obsessed with his work.
Yeah.
You know, but they're in this therapy session together, and she's like, you know, do you not trust your partner? She's like, no, I trust him with my life. Like, I trust him as much as anybody, you know, and that's such a great scene.
Yeah.
But when she's like, you know, why don't you want him this? And she's like, I don't want him to know, like, how fragile I am in the moment. And when, like, she breaks in the end and she tries to, like, act, you know, she's always trying to be stoic.
Yeah.
And she's just not allowing herself to feel.
Yeah.
And when she breaks and, like, her performance there, her acting is fantastic.
Oh, it's
the way she
so
just, like,
good.
Finally breaks through and just lets it go and hugs on him.
I love that scene.
It's fantastic moment.
So heartbreaking to see, because this would be insanely triggering for her. Like, she was literally just kidnapped.
Right.
Literally just kidnapped, almost died, and then now she's kidnapped again and is almost killed. Like,
the amount of times they've almost died.
I know, but, for her, this is happening so quickly after, and so it would just be so much to handle, and she's still, like, clearly processing what happened, like, with Dwayne Barry, so, yeah, I love that scene. I think her acting, like you said, is fantastic. It's really good, and it's really sad, too, just the way Mulder's, like, hugging her, and it's just like, it's okay, and it's like,
I also find it super funny that the only reason Mulder took this case is so that he could go to a football game.
I know.
And when he
it's
shows
so funny.
tells Scully he's got tickets to the game, she kind of looks at him like, Did you think maybe you wanted to run this past me to see if I even wanted to go?
So
it was such a waste of my time.
Yeah, he's like, you're coming with me.
and then he comes in after when they find other bodies and they make him not go to the game.
Yeah.
And he has the game on the TV and he's trying to tell him the case, findings.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there watching the game I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Mulder's so checked out. So Mulder is kind of a shit FBI agent in practical terms, because when it's not supernatural, he's kind of just I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? Because when they put him on that bank fraud duty when he's having to do wiretaps, and he's I could have put those guys away in 3 days, and he's just sitting there and he's listening to the tape that he made in that other episode, and he's just listening in, and he's just he turns them off and is just listening. It's bro, you can also save lives of non-supernatural
totally.
things.
I think especially because he is on the X-Files, I think he feels it's a waste of his time. He needs to be working on X-Files, which is fair, but you're totally right. Him being checked out is really kind of lame this episode.
And I think that even though they technically stumble onto what we perceive as an X-File here, I still think in the end, he just saw this as a random murder case.
Yeah, I don't think he, the only one that really gets any, I don't know if it's not justification, but Scully is the one that just sees anything that's
but
supernatural.
she just thinks it's her mom.
Oh, 100%. I'm positive that she's just this is my trauma. I went back to work too soon.
Yeah, this would not be filed as an X-File for
Not
them.
at all. I don't think so at all. Yeah, so it's a good episode, though. It's a really good episode.
Yeah, I didn't even look at my notes. Scully sees herself in that photo.
Yeah.
And I like how and this is so representative of the 90s, but when the dude goes in for a job to be a delivery person, she asks him what he does, and he was oh, I was in cosmetology school, I went to hairdressing school, and she's kind of oh, looking at him homo. It was so funny, the way she looked at him, and then he was oh, is that this Indian summer or something, or lipstick? And she's well, yes it is. And then she's into it, and it's she would even think he was more of a homo then, right? If he knew the kind of lipstick that she was wearing. But that's I'm using the language that she. Well, okay, I wasn't using the exact language.
Yeah.
But it was just funny the way she reacted to him.
Right.
When he said he was a hairdresser, she was what a fruit.
Right. Yeah. She definitely is being judgmental.
And but also, there's also something in here with that where he comes in to deliver to this girl's house, and she has this young daughter comes in, and he's creepily staring at her, and she's oh, I have 2 other daughters. I have 3 daughters. And he's oh, really? And she's yeah, and we leave our back door unlocked at all times.
God.
And I'm
glad you remembered that, because that was so crazy. She had no discernment. And I get it, but he's not even their usual delivery guy or whatever.
First time she's ever met him.
Why would you be just instantly I'm going to trust you with this information when I have 3 daughters that are attractive too?
Yeah.
So it's not I mean, it wouldn't matter if they were attractive or not. Kids are kids in general. You wouldn't be telling people we always leave our back door open. Come on in anytime.
I got ugly kids. I don't have to protect them. No one's gonna want them.
Yeah, I didn't mean it like that. But people, especially,
leave the door open,
especially
wide
with
open.
Girls. You're always when people have really pretty girls.
I think that's what you should have went with.
Yeah,
especially with girls, not pretty girls. That's funny.
I know. I'm digging my hole.
You
deeper,
do. But I mean, it is true though. It's an unfortunate reality of life. People are more interested interested in pretty people. That's just, it sucks. I mean, I don't like it, but it's just facts. Like, there's a reason Hollywood movies cast the prettiest people, and when they don't, people don't go to see the movies as much. It's just, people are judgmental and superficial like that.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I'll help you. I'll stop digging your hole for you and start putting some dirt back into it. But also in that interview, which I found funny, but this is so fucking true. She also is like, are you a religious man? He's, oh yes, very much so. And she's like, good. Like, we want honesty here. And it's like, you're not going to be honest unless you're religious.
Yeah, yeah.
What nonsense.
Yeah, that's a very
nonsense.
dated thing as well, to be like, if you're a Christian, then you have good morals. And
Yeah.
if you're not, then you don't.
Yeah, I've not seen any correlation between religion and like morality or
yeah.
like honesty.
Absolutely. That's not a... Anyway, but...
Both, you know, people with or without religion or anything, I've noticed there's good and bad people in both.
Yeah, of
period.
course.
I'm
yeah.
just like, nah, you're just either a good person or you're not.
Yeah.
Religion ain't gonna save you. It just masks it better.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. Yeah, they find the hair in the pillows and the finger in the freezer. He's from, well, his mom has like a second house in Florida. I think he was actually raised there. Because they said like, oh, that might be a second home. And then when she's like, how did you find me? And they were like, she had a house here. Something about that. I don't remember exactly what he said. So maybe he was raised there, but because he's such a freak, I'm going to say he's from Florida. That's what I wrote down anyway. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the shape-shifting thing. I don't have an answer for this. Is he an actual shapeshifter? I would say yes.
I think yes.
Because the funeral director sees him as like a demon, mm-hmm. and Scully sees him as that exact same demon. Mm-hmm. So I don't see how you explain that if it's not the case.
No, they wouldn't be seeing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why she's like connected to him and having dreams of him specifically when she's not even seen that form.
Right. I don't know.
And then she even like senses him in the jail after they go and interrogate that other guy who wasn't the killer, mm-hmm. and she's like kind of feels him like, who's this creep?
Yeah.
I don't know why that girl drops charges, but as I had said, like, he just kind of puts his hand on the door. He is being creepy, but is he doing anything illegal?
I don't think she should have dropped charges.
I don't know what she could get him charged with. Harassment?
Absolutely.
I guess.
Yeah, I think harassment for sure.
But I think she played it back in her head and was like, I mean, he just kind of was hitting on me, and I just like, I hit him and hit him in the balls or something and ran off. Like, yeah. He was just like, if he was just an awkward dude trying to hit on her, it would look pretty much exactly the same. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where he's just kind of like, no, don't go. And he puts his hand on the door and she's like freaks out and like runs away.
He says it.
He doesn't do anything.
He definitely says it more like intimidating.
He doesn't do anything illegal. But he has a case could be. He does have bad intentions, yes. But you can't prove bad intentions.
But you could but the harassment at least, I think you could definitely.
What would you say though? He came up and asked me. No. If you actually were being honest, he came up and asked me what chapters we need to read. And when I said I needed to leave, he said, please don't go. And then I hit him and ran. Good luck. Good luck. Any jury would listen to that and say, she overreacted. Because they're not there. Yes, does he seem creepy? Yes. Would a jury be able to discern that for themselves just through her testimony? No. Not the way I explained it. Yeah. You can't like explain. You could be like, well, he felt creepy. Yeah. Then they would be like, this, especially in the 90s.
In the 90s,
no one believed the women in the 90s.
I definitely think you can't discount the way she felt in the moment, like, and how it was making her feel.
But she said drop charges. And I'm like, what are the charges? Harassment.
Probably
right?
harassment.
That's it. That's all I can imagine.
Yeah. So she drops
Not assault.
Them, and he gets out.
He doesn't even touch her.
No.
She hits him.
Yeah.
He doesn't pull a knife on her. He doesn't like... Because if he pulled a knife...
Sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
But if he's just like, don't go.
Though.
He's being a creep.
He's being a big creepy man.
How many girls...
She feels intimidated.
How many creeps do you
unsafe.
encounter in your life as a woman?
A lot.
And
that's why you should never.
You should hit them all and try and
punch them in the balls.
Just hit them in the balls and go to the cops and
Yes.
press charges every time a guy's creepy.
Yes.
So no dude should ever ask out a chick. Is
Not
basically what I
if
was
they're
basically what you're
creepy.
saying. How do they know they're creepy? The literal only way you know you're creepy
If
is
you
if a
get
chick is like
punched
you're
in the
creepy.
balls-
I've been told I'm creepy by girls.
If you get punched or kicked, then you're a creep.
Has there okay? Any of my guy? There's a lot of these people who are watching are dudes. Has a chick ever thought you were creepy? Have they ever told you were creepy? Whether it was in like high school or older?
Maybe you were being a creep.
Maybe.
Maybe you were being a creep.
But should I have been arrested? I don't think I've ever been a creep to a chick. I don't think I've ever been like a legit
Everybody
like this
is,
guy like a super creep.
Everyone's different though.
But how do I know I am?
I don't
Creeps
know.
don't know they're creeps. Some might. Anyways, moving on. Irresistible. He's not irresistible.
No.
What is irresistible?
I think the hair and nails are irresistible to him.
Okay.
Because like every
His
time he
obsession is
sees,
irresistible.
he gets very like fixated on it.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing with the hair. I don't.
He's
and
putting
he wants
it
to
in his
like.
pillows.
I get that, but
He's
he's like
just being
when he brings in the hooker and she's like, it's cold in here, and he's like, I'll draw you a bath, and he's like, how much to wash your hair, and I'll pay extra, and she's like, I've never been asked that before, and then she goes and he's like, is your hair treated? And then he's like wanting to wash her hair, and then she feels the water, and it's like, why is this cold? And comes out and finds his like, he's stolen all of the like bouquets and wreaths and whatnot that people bring to the funerals, and she's like, what the like, she should have left way before that.
Yeah.
I always hate how hookers are always seen as like kind of cannon fodder trash.
Always. It's awful.
In these movies, they're
Yeah.
always just throwaway bodies.
Yes.
And it's like, they're fucking people, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
They might be lost at the moment, or maybe this is what they want to do. I doubt it. I don't know anyone who wants to be a prostitute. I don't know anyone's like, you know what? Even if I didn't have to make money, I'd still want to do this. Even if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd come back.
I think it
and suck
depends on
dicks for free.
how they're being treated. That's what it comes down to. If you're being like mistreated and beaten and like, treated horribly,
I think
then you wouldn't
that
wanna
comes
do
with
it,
the
but-
job, right? Like you're not gonna
because there's no like worker protections for them.
Right.
But if there were, there'd probably be lots of people that are like, yeah, I want to do that.
not for free.
No, you don't want to do.
That's what I'm saying.
Some people want to do things for free.
I mean, you just go to orgies. You just go and have sex with people,
Yeah.
which I guess if you're not paying, then prostitution is just sex. So that technically would just be like, I'm just gonna go get laid.
People do that
but
for
you
free
wouldn't,
all the time.
You wouldn't go out on a street corner and let like gross men pull up and be like, yeah, I'm just gonna give you a freebie and I'm gonna sleep with disgusting men. You would
Yeah.
go into a bar
Yeah.
and you would find an attractive man or woman or whatever you're
That
into.
wasn't a creep.
And you're like, let's have sex for free, because that's what sex is. It's free. Anyways, moving on. We got way off the rails.
Yeah.
But I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good episode.
All right, guys.
Bye.